back in the game twice in one day. Twice in one day. So for the people who don't know, we had a discussion earlier, and it was on my Patreon because we discussed how to have and manage multiple wives, multiple girlfriends under the same house. And that's something, excuse me, that's something that I'm not quite sure how YouTube would react to it. So we did it there. But believe it or not, that's not the first thing that actually caught my attention with this guy. Because for those of you who follow me, you know, I tend to follow a lot of people who have a lot to say. I follow a lot of men and women who are not afraid to be who and what they are. And there's a lot of interesting things that I really want to get to, but I want to start with a very simple and basic question. And I understand there's a lot more complicated things we're going to talk about, but this is the one for when they see you on Twitter. By the way, follow at AbuAmerican, but can you tell me what kind of crossbow are you holding?
That is the Accelerator 410. That's one of my multiple crossbows, actually. I have a tactical crossbow also, but that's just my hunting crossbow. That's the Accelerator 410. That'll put a pinch on an animal. I love that thing. It's my baby.
That's the Accelerator 410.
Yeah. 410 foot-pounds of force, apparently, it impacts with.
Okay. So that thing, how exactly does that thing work?
Very simple. You cock it. There's a cocking mechanism, like a string, 2 strings you use to cock it, because you can't pull it up with your own hands. It's just way too much draw force. And then, you slap a crossbow bolt in there and aim and pull the trigger, man. And it's that thing's pretty nasty, dude. I would want to get hit with one of those things. I wasn't. I mean, I knew it was powerful, but I didn't know how powerful it was. I have an old sofa in the back of my house. I mean, it's got a back in it with 2x4s in it, and then it's like leather and cushioning and all sorts of stuff. It's really thick. And I shot it with the crossbow bolt, and it went straight through and into the ground like that deep. And I was like, holy smokes. Then I took the head off, and there was no point on it. It was just a flat, rounded point of the bolt, and I shot it again. It did the exact same thing. So I'm like, man, I don't even need to put a pointy head on this arrow. You can just, screw up an animal without an arrowhead on it. That thing is pretty dangerous. I actually consider it more dangerous than my guns, to be honest.
Okay. Because see, I'm a gun person from the United States.
Americans are guns.
Yeah, that thing just looks.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. I love playing with it. I go in my backyard and I shoot this old sofa all the time. So,
Well, let me do this for the people who you may be watching this from some point in the future. I don't necessarily know that you have to do them in order, but if you want to go back and look at what we did, it was how to manage many wives. And that was a good, fun conversation. We got through some interesting things on my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the bottom. And I'm looking for comments there as well on what kind of questions that here I can answer in depth the next time we do it.
Yeah, that was a good combo.
Now I guess we can start with the good stuff. Tell them who you are.
AbuAmerican, African American, Muslim male, living in Germany, living the American Muslim dream in Germany. My claim to fame, I suppose, is living with multiple wives under one roof. And I've just kind of gained a following after that, just for some of just random wisdoms also, but mostly because of I live with multiple women.
well, that's not what we're here to necessarily talk about now. But here's the but. We ended up talking and connecting on some political issues.
Indeed.
And I'll tell you that right now we are living in some very interesting times, which is a terrible thing. Nobody wants to be alive during interesting times. Nobody does.
No. But I've seen a lot of interesting times. This is probably the second most interesting times I've been in. I was actually here in Germany when the Berlin Wall came down, so you can imagine how that was.
So let's back up then. You're
Hmm?
in Germany right now. You're
Yeah,
a black. Are you Black American or African American?
Africa. I'm mixed. My mother's British. She's actually Indian. My mother's Indian. She's Desi, Hindi Indian, and my dad's African American. But I identify as African American, and yeah,
Okay. Because I always tell people, just ask if you don't know. I'm a Black American. Ask.
yeah.
You know. Here's where we are. We live in interesting times, and you and I ended up discussing lightly in some of the things that we did online. We ended up discussing the way the world was tilting. We ended up discussing where everyone is right now. We ended up discussing some things, and I actually want to start with what I think may be the more difficult path, because you issued a challenge. It was a short video you put up, and you said, "Where are you now?" You issued a challenge to the people who said that you were a little too, I don't know if the term hardline would be the correct term, on your immigration stance.
Yeah, probably. Hardline is probably the right word.
Open that up for them. Let's go with that one first, because it's in the context of COVID-19 and all these other things.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it shocking, man. It's like, where's the consistency? One of the things of the modern world is that, like, that the world is so lax on consistency with people and ideologies and concepts. This is not something that I personally can do. I understand that I can do it, but I find it very hypocritical and like just mad that people could just like, what was the word they used back in the days? Flip flop on issues and stances. And so months ago, we had this entire, I can't remember where these people were coming from, like Nicaragua or Tijuana or somewhere. They were coming by the thousands trying to get into the US over its southern border. And they were like, oh, it's humanitarian. Oh, save the children, because people were trying to run across an armed border with children where U.S. border guards were shooting smoke and rubber bullets at people. And they knowingly were trying to run across the border with children, and people were trying to swim across the Rio, I think it is, and they were drowning with their kids and whatnot. And they were saying it's a humanitarian issue. And now we have the COVID-19 situation. And this is still a humanitarian issue, according to the media, more than ever, because people are not getting proper medical care in the third world. So right. Where are you now? Why are you not like championing? Where's Alexandria or whatever her name, Ocasio? Why aren't you at the border, doing screaming photos? Let the poor people in. We got to get them to ventilators. Where are these people? It's just ridiculous, man. It just, boy, I get worked up, man. So I just find it very hypocritical. It's like, this is a humanitarian issue, but you're silent on it. Why? Where are you?
So you're right, but don't we understand that when situations change, are we not entitled for our stances to change? I mean, I understand people on both sides of the issue. However, having traveled the world as you have, I can actually, and this is something a lot of my friends who have a hard time balancing, that I am a social liberal, but fiscal conservative. It's awkward when I explain to them that they don't really understand how the United States is unique in a lot of great ways, but they're also unique. We are also unique in a lot of ways that are not so good. Like, I've never been anywhere in the world that would allow me to get away with half the border nonsense that America does without being shot in the face. It's their country, because I've always believed if you come to my house and I say, take your shoes off at the door, you can choose not to take your shoes off, but you can't come in, right? That's the deal. That's the social contract that was made. Yet we often feel as if when someone says, okay, there should be rules, I'm not saying no one can come into America, but we got to have rules. There's got to be some order to this. You get so many opinions that it's like, do you not understand that if you've never lived outside the United States, there are some people in other countries you don't want in yours? Are most people like that? No, not at all. But you got to have some litmus test to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, for me to get my... Go ahead.
Well, you asked the question. It's like, can you change your mind? Well, yes and no. I mean, I'll give the prime example for me as a Muslim. It's not always popular to be Muslim, but I just can't just like throw that under the bus when bad guys from amongst the Muslims go out and do stupid stuff. I got to stick to my quote unquote guns, not That's a bad example. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, there's bad Muslims doing bad stuff, and it looks bad for me, even though I'm not doing bad stuff. So, but in other things, yes, you can change your mind when you know you're wrong. Now, here's the thing that bothers me the most about this. These people publicly went out and said it's the right thing to do to let them across the border. And now they are all happy with the idea of having border controls and shutting down airlines and entire economies and stopping people from crossing from their house to the shopping center, let alone from one border to the other. But they haven't publicly gone out and retracted their statement and said, you know what? Yeah, that's probably a bad idea. You know, I can see why we want to check who comes in and out of the country. Are they criminals? Are they sick? Are they this? Are they that? What's worse? We can cure sicknesses, but criminal minds we can't get rid of. A person who's a criminal is generally, what's the word I'm looking for? They're usually prone to recidivism once they're released from jail, meaning they're going to go right back to their previous behavior. And we know that a lot of immigrants who come across illegally, they end up doing illegal things. You're already coming across the border illegally, so you're an illegal citizen already. You're a person who already shows that you don't have respect for rules, laws, and regulations. So are those the people you want in anyway? So yes, you can change your mind to answer your question, but you have to absolutely, completely, and totally retract your previous statements that you made publicly. If you did it privately, fine. You don't have to say anything. But we had people online fighting, arguing, cussing each other, unfriending people, my family included, and now they're all silent. And they're like, yeah, you should, social distancing, don't be out in public, shelter at home. And I'm like, dude, weren't you just let like 10,000 people across the border like just a few months ago? It's madness, bro.
Here's the thing. Right now we're also dealing with the concept of not only are we dealing with whether or not the rules have to change, we're dealing with different, dare I say, civil liberties, laws being ignored about the rights and privileges of Western democracies, because we have the privilege in the United States to make a lot of decisions for ourselves. Different sets of decisions, to be sure, but we also have the decision-making process. We can also be stupid if we want to. A lot of countries, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do things that are just going to be stupid for everybody. And it's awkward when I realize, oh, no, I'm going to get my ass kicked for this. What if the ability to make your own decisions really isn't for everybody? I know how that sounds. Oh. When I see groups of teenagers choosing to have a spring break party when medical officials are telling them there's a disease out there killing people, and then they all get sick, what do you do with those people? Like, how do we handle knowing that there are groups of people in the United States who fundamentally believe their group is exempt not only from the law of the country you're a citizen of, but the laws of nature and biology that say going outside in large groups mean you might. Because I'll tell you the first time I saw this.
Yeah,
I have a friend who I have a great deal of respect for who's an anti-vaxxer. I cut that argument right. We're not going to even go down that road on my channel. But when I was able to even point out groups and communities that chose not to vaccinate getting disproportionately slaughtered and watching their children die of mumps, measles, and rubella, that wasn't even enough to change their minds of, well, I think vaccinations are dangerous. Well, yeah, aspirin's dangerous for some people. But how do you deal with that for whom people believe that evidence and example are the same thing when they're not?
I had this conversation recently, and I have to admit I'm somewhat of a eugenist, partially.
Wait, can you repeat what you just said, my friend?
What's that?
Can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I said I had this conversation. I'm somewhat, not entirely, but I'm somewhat of a eugenist, unfortunately. But not a forcible eugenist. Let me explain. Let me qualify and quantify that statement. I'm a eugenist in the sense of, even though I'm a Muslim and I believe in creationism, of selective, Darwinism. You call me a Darwinist creationist, a creationist Darwinist. I don't know, whatever. That's why I use eugenesis. But anyway, here's the thing. When we look at past plagues, when we look at past pandemics, and humanity's had quite a few of them, we always see that there are a few groups that survive them. And that is the strong, who can power through an illness, the smart, who know how to take care of themselves and avoid illness or cure themselves of illness, and those who are smart and strong. So those who take the necessary steps to protect themselves, but they get sick anyway, and then they have the strength to power through it. Everyone else was wiped out. So if a person is running around the streets when we know there's a viral pandemic going on and he gets sick, hey, homie, you know what? You made your choice. You were too dumb to protect yourself. And therefore, you now suffer the consequences of your stupidity. We are too protective of our own species. I understand the humanity of it. I understand that we feel it's the right thing to do, and it technically is the right thing to do. But at the same time, we find that all species on the planet reproduce for two things: intelligence and strength, or strength and intelligence, generally strength, or for some attribute which gives them an advance or an advantage in their environment and in their habitat. Humanity is the only species that doesn't do this. And I think we need to end that. Stupid people, let them go do stupid stuff and let them die doing stupid stuff, because we don't need more stupid people. The weak, okay, they have more of an excuse, because we should protect the weak to a degree. But at the same time, do we want our species to become increasingly weaker or stronger and smarter? Well, obviously, we want to be smarter and stronger. That's how we got to be the apex species on the planet as it is right now. We don't have exceptionally thick skin that protects us from the claws of tigers and lions and bears. Oh my, we don't have exceptionally sharp teeth. We don't have claws ourselves. No, our brain. We cannot allow, this is the eugenist part, stupid people to continue to reproduce. If they want to be dumb and run out around in the streets and get sick, let them go do it and die.
So you're saying they should be denied medical. So let's just take the example of the spring breakers who went and chose to have a party on the beach. I believe it was Florida. Now that example is multiplied everywhere in the world. You have teenagers in Florida, groups of Jews in New York, Christians in Europe saying we should be able to get together regardless of the health concerns. So what do? Do you have the government just fly a helicopter over with a giant sign says, go home now or no medicine for you?
Well, that's the thing now, establishing who legitimately is sick and who, is sick from stupidity. I think what we have is we have police going out patrolling now. Like in Germany, we have, it's called the Ordnungsamt. We have them going around, driving around, giving people tickets. We see, I see on Facebook videos of like Indians and Pakistanis going around beating each other.
Wait. You broke up.
That you were supposed to be inside.
Okay. You broke up for a quick second, but you came back in.
Okay. So if we told you to be inside and then the police stop you and they just take your information, okay, we're going to take your information. We're going to put you in a medical database. If you show up at a hospital sick for this specific illness that we're telling people to stay inside for, we're not treating you. Instead of arresting them, finding them, this, that, the other, say, hey, look, you know what? You decided to make this decision, take this decision on your own. And so you are officially on your own, because we as a society are trying to protect ourselves and protect our society as a whole. And so you're making decisions which are contrary to that. And so therefore you are not acting in the benefit of the society. And this is one part of this is a part of the problem of Western society in general. I like being in Western society. I'm a Westerner, but we have too much individualism and not enough collective responsibility. Now, of course, we can't be socialists and be entire communists, but at the same time.
But here's my challenge. Give me a functional example of the balance that you think we should strike.
Yeah. What do I think about?
Can you point to a country that's a functional example of the balance that you believe we can strike?
No, I can't. It doesn't exist.
Exactly, because we're people.
That's my point. We've got too much humanity, but to a degree, we need to kind of let go of that. But we have to keep it at the same time. It's an impossible balance, maybe. But I think we're too nice. I think it's possible, but we're just not willing to do it. Because then that might include, you know what the problem is? The problem is, imagine you took a different course in life and you're a cop or you're a doctor. And now you are tasked with like denying people the right to medical aid because they made a stupid decision and ignored public safety warnings. And now your son is brought in. And your son is one of those idiots that's running the streets. This is why we can't have this operating in the society. Because even me with my ideas, that's going to be a tough call for me. I'm going to be like, man, my son is one of them idiots and he needs to die. But damn it, he's my son. And so it's going to be impossible to run a society like that because it's too personal. because there's always going to be some overlap somewhere where a person is going to be able to personalize the situation and not react in the way that's beneficial to the society on a whole.
But isn't that what compassion is?
Okay, yes, compassion, but we also have survival, of our species, and the improvement of the species. We have to look at like that also, making ourselves collectively weaker or stronger. I'm talking on greater than COVID-19 here. I mean, yeah, it's a tough call, man. That's why I said I'm somewhat of a eugenist. Eugenicism, we saw how eugenics played out in the African American community in the U.S. and it was ugly. It was done in a harsh and ugly way. But at the same time,
wait. Eugenics meaning the intentional slaughter of, right? The
eugenics
intentional,
is in like deciding who does and doesn't reproduce.
Give us the example. Well, let me back up for a quick second. We got Bull Rush here, who said sometimes you got to let people touch a stovepipe.
Yeah,
if they find it was hot, they'll remember. And
I
Brother Kelvin, Brother Kelvin said, "I don't think it's a matter of people being stupid, just egotistical," which may or may not be true. We'll find that out. But when you talk about the eugenics against Black Americans, what do you mean?
I mean, we saw that, like, Black people it was decided that, this person is not intelligent enough to reproduce. And so they were sterilized forcibly without their will, without their consent.
Yeah.
This is different. I'm talking about basically talking about letting stupid people eradicate themselves. I'm not saying we forcibly sterilize people. It's just like dumb people are going to do dumb stuff that's going to have dumb consequences. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I say let them, first place, stupid prize every single time. And if that costs you your life,
See, here's the problem with that. I don't know how many people we have left if everyone is dealt a hand that says I'm going to have to suffer the consequence of foolish behavior because, and I know we're going deep into the rabbit hole, but that's what we're here for. There are so many people, particularly people who are born in disproportionately disadvantaged situations. If you are a Black American, for example, and you have a $1 per hour job that makes you make the decision, do I feed my family or do I stay home where I won't catch a disease? You see millions of people all over the world who aren't, and shout out, you talked a little bit about being a prepper. I carry the title with a capital P. Are you a prepper?
Yeah, I like to be prepared for multiple situations.
Okay, because that's something I have talked and I have preached until I'm blue in the face, and it wasn't until these past couple of weeks until a lot of people started talking to me about it, saying, "Oh, now I get it. Can you help me prepare, Wateef?" And I send out these lists of, this is what I would buy in this situation, and blah blah blah. But I also have to say, hey, I don't know how to help you. If you try to get this stuff now, you're just not going to get it. Like I did this with a buddy of mine who survived a storm, and we often talk about being a prepper doesn't mean you're Rambo hiding in a cave in the woods. Being a prepper means you're prepared for the situation that may come up, and nobody wants to listen. Ha ha ha! What do you have, a box full of toilet paper? Well, I've got a box full of toilet paper as well as about as months worth of dried goods, salt, coffee, short to middle range medical things. Because let's just say that zombies don't take over the earth, but I just look out my window one day and I decide I don't want to go out there. I want to have the privilege of saying, it's just, I think I'll stay home today.
I just want to say this. If anybody's trying to prepare now, you're not preparing, you're reacting. You're way too late. You're behind the curve. This is a situation. Okay, it hasn't turned out into anything serious, but if you thought now, because of COVID-19, I need to prepare, you're not preparing, you're reacting. And you're gonna do it all wrong. Because preparing takes preparation, it takes planning, it takes thinking, it takes understanding your environment, knowing your territory, knowing your neighborhood. It's not just buying stuff and then stacking it in the corner somewhere. Do you need to bug out in a situation? Do you shelter at home? People, you're not going to be preparing right now. You're going to be reacting, and it's whatever you come up with is going to be goofy.
You want to keep in the bag, you're going to have to explain to them, tell them what bug out means.
Bug out is when your, let's say, shelter at home location, since that's the term that's going around right now, becomes compromised, for whatever reason, and then you have to leave your area, your location, your shelter to another one rapidly. Do you have a secondary location to go to? Do you have the capacity to actually just grab a pack, head out, and survive at least 3 to 5 days with that pack and nothing else until you get to your secondary shelter? So your ability to bug out, leave one location and head to another rapidly.
Yeah, most people aren't gonna.
No.
I have clients that I've done business with for a long time, and we ended up having a couple of conversations online. I have a particular client with a family, and we were just talking, and he said, I'm thinking I got to go to the store today and buy a couple of extra pounds of meat. And I said, yeah, I might go out buy some steaks too. I always leave, I don't want to touch my freezer yet. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I keep the freezer, with a bunch of squared off beef, chicken, blocks of meat, just in case. But the stuff that I'm going to eat that day or that week, I can just buy that, put that in the fridge. And he said, so you take this prepping thing really seriously? And I said, well, yeah. So I went out and I bought, what did he say? So I bought a few flats of water bottles, some extra eggs, and some other things. And I said, are you serious? And we went over about a half an hour of prepping what it may take. And I'm proud to tell you, I scared the shit out of him because I said, I'm going to make a point to you. And then I just want you to tell me every time I say something you disagree with. This many canned goods, this much beans, this much rice. The 5-gallon drums of water, you can have 3 or 4 of those in your house and 2 plastic pumps in case one breaks. The little, little $5 hand pump. And it was awkward when he started to realize, and this is when it happened. I don't know anyone here in Brazil that's gone into a supermarket that was totally empty. I know Americans who have, but I do know people here in Brazil that have sent me pictures and said for the very first time, they couldn't go in and buy 12 cans of soup because there weren't that many left. Or now stores are saying you can only purchase so much. Now they're starting to get that itch.
Yeah.
I wish I had my food in my crossbow.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of my preparation thing is I have to actually be like very I have to approach from a different position. I mean, there's only so much I can do because I'm in Europe and as an African American here without any family. I don't have a secondary location I can bug out to. So I have to hunker down wherever I'm at, and to top it off, I have a large family. Although I can transport them in my vehicle, So socially is where my preparations come in. So I know people I can trade with here using the skills that I have because I have a German hunting license. And this is something that's very rare in Germany. Not too many people have it. So I can go out and actually in an emergency situation, which I don't think is going to happen. But if it was, I can actually go out, kill animals I won't eat, wild pigs. There are far too many of in Germany, and trade with my neighbors the things that I need. And so for me, keeping a good standing with my local neighbors, and understanding who has what and who has the ability to help and who has the ability to just get in the way and be a problem. These are things I understand locally also,
How's your German?
It's my second language. It's fluent.
Good. I tell people all the time, don't be like Wateef, because most of my career and my business is done in English. My Portuguese for Brazil is not where it should be. And I get chewed up all the time about not being able to read a financial report in Portuguese. And so I'm caught in that situation where I actually had just enrolled back in university to take classes again for formal reading, writing, language of Portuguese. COVID breaks out. Everybody gets sit down home, and it's just. Yeah. I've got all the time in the world. I downloaded a couple of programs, and I just every night I'm going over my verb tenses. And I
picked up Arabic when I was in the Middle East. I lived in the Middle East 7 years. I picked up Arabic also, while I was down there.
What dialect of Arabic?
Khaliji, like just Gulf Arabic. I don't speak like modern standard. I speak the Khaliji dialect. Yeah, the Gulf had. In Qatar is where I was. But you find the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Saudis, they generally all speak like roughly the same dialect. They have a few individual words they say differently, but that's why it's called Khaliji Arabic. It's Gulf Arabic. Khalij is the Gulf.
Yeah, I learned that there were so many different dialects from a woman I knew who was a Black American woman living in Shanghai, China, and her language that she was learning was Arabic.
Yeah.
And she had she actually befriended a woman who was from Jordan or someplace like that, and they would 2 to 3 times a week they would get together for tea and Arabic. And this woman had her, the improvement of 6 months of meeting somebody 3 times a week for an hour and a half. Her pronunciation got startlingly good, to the point where the lady started taking her with other Arabic women when they went out together shopping or something, and they'll be like, 6 months? She can go out shopping with us? She can order food with us? And it was, But I tell people all the time.
Yeah, I had a difficult time with Jordanian and Lebanese Arabic. I've been to both Jordan and Lebanon. And when I was in Jordan, I had a hard time understanding people. In Lebanese, I just gave up. I thought they were speaking a whole other language. I was like, what are you guys talking about? Yeah.
Wow. Well, I tell people that I firmly believe that learning a second language, and I mean if I'm wrong, as someone who's lived abroad, who maintain a life of international standard, I believe that a second language might just be the way out. A lot of people who are have-nots don't see
Yeah.
it.
You know what I've noticed the most about like having a second language is that it changes your worldview. Travel not only changes your worldview, but having a second language does also. I made a statement. I don't know if it's true. Maybe I read it somewhere and it just kind of stuck on my head and I called it my own statement. But I basically said language shapes culture, shapes society. And so the more languages you learn, the more culturally, what do you say? I guess open you become. I don't know if that's good or bad, but depending on your perspective. But you definitely come to understand cultures better. I'll give you an example. Although I don't partake a lot in German culture, I understand it very well. And that just comes from the language and understanding language, where a lot of words come from, how they use it, whatever else. And so although I don't participate in a lot of the local culture, I understand it. And so it's very easy for me to, meld in with the people despite being black and they're obviously white, that understanding through language changed a lot of my worldview. And so
Is that the word we're looking for? Adroit, clever, skillful in the using of hands and mind.
yeah, appropriate. Yeah.
I think that's the appropriate, because learning languages, you also learn, it digs these grooves in your mind because there are words that don't translate.
Yep. Yes. I'm replying to Bull Rush here. Bull Rush said the best way to learn language is immersion. He's absolutely right. Yeah, you made a good point right there. When I speak German, it's in my head as German. I don't have translation in my head. So I have a very difficult time actually translating words. So when someone asks me, what does this mean in English? Or what does this mean in German? I have to sit there and I'm stumped for a minute. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Because when I speak German, the language in my head is actually German. There is no English in my head when I speak it.
I'm not there yet. When I hear Portuguese, I still do the ping pong of boom, boom, boom. Okay, translate through. Boom, boom, boom. There are certain words that I don't hear anymore, but the majority of the Portuguese, I still go, wait, there. I'm not water yet. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there.
But what's funny is, just a funny point. I just want to mention this. When a German says something that I completely don't understand, I understand the words in German, but it's totally blanked out in my head entirely. And so I'll sit there staring at the person, not having a clue what they just said. Period. Whether English or German, whatever. And so they look at me like I'm absolutely nuts. It happens to me at work because I work in the engineering field. And so sometimes they say something and it's like an entire blacked out spot because I'm like, dude, I heard those words, but I don't have a clue what the frick you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. When we talk about this, we talk about it all in that context of something that you said in one of your videos, from which I took the title of Information in Action. Information in action. Getting the information and then doing something with the information. When you understand, Bull Rush came in again. You'll know when you start dreaming another language. I'll tell you something, Bull Rush. I had a dream and it switched into Portuguese and it scared me and I woke myself up. How crazy is that? My brain went, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop that.
Yeah.
But going into the information in action, getting out information is dangerous. And I understand as I grow, as I rapidly approach maturity, a lot of people don't want information because knowing makes you responsible for doing something about it. You can't know something and then say, well, I didn't know that was the problem. When they identify that maybe one of the issues I'm having is, here's a common one people come to me about when they ask me for advice. I don't have enough money. What am I doing wrong? Okay, here's the information. You need to understand what investments are. You need to take time to, don't put any money away yet. How about we study what is a bond, what is a stock, and what is cryptocurrency? How about I give you some books? How about, you can contract me for personal coaching? Now, all of a sudden, well, I don't want to do all that. Can't you just tell me what to do? I could, but then I'd be one of those people taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear it's not your fault. I'll fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we talked about this in the last one we did just a little while ago. It's like it's the hard work, man. It's that unavoidable hard work. Everybody wants the secret they want the secret formula, but the secret formula is hard work. And it's like you're
Yeah.
not gonna escape it, buddy. You know?
The secret formula is hard work, consistency. A little every day goes a long way. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. But now that we understand that about the world, we have when I was a kid and the internet came around, it got popular right around the time I was in college. I said, wow, the game is over. Everybody can learn everything. Every book that was ever banned can now be read. Every piece of information that you've ever said, man, that sucks. I wish I could learn more about this group of society instead of that group of society. You can now. And how many people have done more than look at porn?
They've used it as a great big distraction tool. You know, I had this argument like maybe 6 or 8 months ago. No, it wasn't that long ago. No, yeah, it was about 6 to 8 months ago on my Facebook. I hate Facebook too, just to be honest. Because anyway, I was telling people that the old gatekeepers are gone. You know, everybody, I can't do this because I'm black. I can't do this because my socioeconomic situation. I can't do this because Bernie Sanders ain't president. I'm like, no, the old gatekeepers are gone. We've got kids that are like 16 becoming millionaires. They're doing stuff like playing video games, YouTube channels, this, that, the other. Other people are actually learning actual skills and creating stuff, making stuff, selling stuff. The old gatekeepers are gone. You are limited only by yourself now. And it's proof that the old gatekeepers weren't necessary because the vast majority of the people are not willing to do the necessary work to be successful. So, but now it's clear. Now it's unarguable. Now the only thing that people can argue is their own excuses. When you tell them like, look, you can go online right now during COVID-19 situation, and you've got Udemy, you've got this one, that one, ever else, offering their courses and their information and material for free. Why are you not taking advantage of it? You know, they could tell you about Tiger King or some crazy, what is that called? Tiger Mafia or some crazy show.
And I think a guy gets eaten by a tiger. And it came across my timeline and I was like, you know what? I don't need that, because I like documentaries. I was like, I don't need that in my life. I'm an anime person and a manga person. I love comic books. So my reward is I one of the pillars of manhood I always talk about, I have to read at least one nonfiction book every month, unless I'm enrolled in a MOOC course. Like if I'm in a MOOC course or something like that, that'll count as my reading a book. But my reward to me is I can watch the anime that I've been missing out on, but no anime every month until I get to that part, and then I binge on it. But here's where it gets weird is when I realize, like, I actually feel like now am I wasting time watching anime? Because if I read the book a month in 2 weeks, maybe I should just read a second book. And as I rapidly approach maturity, now I'm starting to have that argument. Well, maybe I should but I like anime, but you could read another book. But it's fun, but you could read another book. And it's like, what do I do?
Though. Yeah, it's the balance. I mean, if a person's putting in the work and they're doing their stuff and they're getting results and they're getting accomplishments, then okay, yeah, of course, relax. But if you're that person who's like, I had this guy, and I'm not gonna crap on him. He's one of my guys. He's in one of my Telegram groups that I run. And so he's probably seeing this because I put this link in there. But he was having some issues, and I sent him a link to my one-to-one consultations, and he couldn't afford it. And I'm like, look, dude, you're a man with a family. Why can't you afford this? So if I find out he's watching, what is it, Tiger King? Is that what it's called? I don't even know because I haven't seen it myself. If I find out you're watching Tiger King, I'm gonna kick you in the sack. You don't have time for that. You know what I mean? If you can't afford something like a one-to-one, you can't afford to be telling me what the Tiger King plot is. And this is the thing: if you can afford that time, and you can, okay, then you can have that luxury, because that's a luxury in life, being able to waste time. And I don't even know if anybody, no matter how rich you are, has that luxury. But possibly you do. Maybe you're comfortable with it. But that's the point. A lot of people don't have that. You have that luxury. You've done your work. You're in a place in life where you want to be. A lot of people don't have that. So why are you doing it? Why do you feel comfortable wasting that time?
People are institutionalized by old order thinking like a tiger that's been in a cage too long. Open the cage door and they don't know what to do. Amen, bro. Rush. Amen.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of thing.
That guy's sharp. I follow him on Twitter.
Is he somebody I should follow?
He doesn't have a lot of followers, but the guy, he doesn't say anything stupid. I haven't seen him say anything dumb or annoying. And a lot of people annoy me on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, And what is his? Let me see. Hold on a second.
I don't think he
Bull
does
Rush.
any following or anything or any products. I don't think he does anything like that. He's just a regular guy, as far as I know. He's just a sharp one.
Okay, well, let's do this. You know what? One of the things I love to do is say, we can always share the goodies. Bull Rush, do me a favor, put your Twitter in the comments right now. I'm going to show everybody your Twitter page, see if somebody who wants to have some reasonable conversation, because if Abu vouches for you, that's good enough for me. If he says your guy's not out there saying stupid, ignorant, foolish stuff, we need more of that. And I want to put your page out there. Go ahead and put that link in.
Nice.
I also tell people, I'm not a YouTuber, but I guess I kind of fell into it because for me, I do two things. And one of them, I always share this with people, something that's really helped me, and we talked about this before, is I've been able to put together a Patreon with a lot of the information that I have and give it to people who actually want it. And I tell everybody, go to patreon.com/YusefWateef and read it. I'm not going to make you read through it all here. But I have 3 levels: the arrogance, cutthroat, and arcane. And they're self-explanatory because they're brutal. I want everybody to take a chance and take a look at that, decide if it's something for you, because I've been able to share a lot of the benefits of my traveling the world and my life experiences. I've been able to really put out there for a lot of people. Just like you, if I'm not mistaken, let's put this here. That's you coming up. Mad Monkey finding the violence.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. That's my book.
I still have a hard finding. I don't know if I would say finding. Is it finding virtues in violence or finding virtue in self-defense, or how do you find virtue in violence?
Well, first, let me establish the difference between self-defense and violence. So, self-defense is actually, as we know, protecting yourself. What we were doing back then, when I was in my younger years, up to about 23, 24. That was just violence, man. It was just unnecessary. It was chaos. And how do you find virtues in violence? Man, I kind of covered this before, and it's kind of hard to explain. When you end up in a situation multiple times and it's a bad situation, it's a situation that you end up panicking through, not really panicking, but you're in a dangerous and a bad place and you don't want to be there. And you end up there again. The intelligent person asks themselves, how do I avoid this? And so what I did was I just started putting one-to-one together. And I said, I know what the outcome of what's about to happen is going to be, because I've been here before. I've been here 2 or 3 times, and I know how this is going to turn out, and I never liked the outcome. And so eventually I started doing the mathematics of the situation and said, okay, this is a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or having the wrong ideas, or hanging with the wrong people. And that led to my values, virtues, ethics, morals. And so I just used the word virtues because I said to myself, okay, this is a person who is going to do something that's going to cause me trouble. And so I need to avoid this person or this situation, or I need to take control of the situation because I know this person is out of control. And if I don't control it, we're going to end up in a bad place. And so those became my virtues. And I found it through violence because I always ended up in some sort of bad situation. And this book is maybe 5 to 10% of all the situations I've been in. It's not really.
Let me tell you where your world and my world meet, and it's definitely not in the youthful of violence. I'm a square. I've always been a square.
Okay.
Probably one of the things that kept me from having stories to tell about how something shitty almost happened. But you're a writer and I'm an editor. This is where we need to come together. For the people who haven't seen it, I make most of my coin editing. If you have a book, a journal, a website that needs to be done in university level academic English, that's what I do. I do coaching for English language, and I coach people who do things like TED Talks. But catch me on LinkedIn. I tell everyone this all the time. Skip through my profile, skip all the way through my profile. And I want everybody, if you do go to LinkedIn.com to add me as a friend, I want you to go all the way down to my recommendations, because that's where other business professionals who know my value there talk about who I am and what I've done. These are the people that make it worth it to do business with me. And I have business professionals from all over the world who've done that with me. On your next book, will you give me a chance to bid on your editing?
Yeah, I'm actually an English teacher by trade. I'm not working in the English field right now, but I am an English teacher by trade. That's what I study.
So if you understand English, you understand never trust your own editing.
No, absolutely. And I asked some people to help me with editing, and they didn't come through. And so I just ended up
That's
just
why
putting it
you
out
hire professionals.
So yeah, sure, absolutely. Why not? Me and the wife were talking about my next book. I'm probably going to start writing it here at the beginning of next week, since my job gave me 2 more weeks off. Yeah. But you know what?
Yeah.
I was real nervous about this, and I was just telling the guy who bought the book. He's a friend of mine. I'm on with him every Saturday. I'm on another live show every Saturday, and he bought the book. And I told him, I was like, you excuse the term, but I was like, I felt like a little bitch because I almost didn't want to let it go. I almost didn't want to let it out because I just didn't feel like it was good enough, you know. And then I was just like, you know what? Let me go ahead and throw it out here and see what happens. So yeah, I was real nervous. First time I ever done anything like this. You know, very nervous about it.
Really?
Because very personal book. I put a lot of personal experiences in that book. Stuff that, you know, actually some, like, I guess, I don't know what the word is. Anger and pain that I'd never dealt with before. And so it was a pretty serious experience writing the book. I was like, God dang. Yeah.
So here's what I want to finish with, because I definitely want you back, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with me. I've got another appointment, but one of the things that I don't know whether or not we've actually gone through it, I tell everyone, find this guy's page, and I tell them to do the same thing I would tell with anyone, give him a month. Find out whether or not what he does and what he talks about is something of interest to you, and if it is, stick with him. Give him a month. He's worth it.
Yeah, give it a try. I don't put out as much content as I used to, but I'm going to go back to it. I've been on Twitter a lot, and I find Twitter to be semi-toxic, and so I'm going to go back. I started on YouTube, but I'm probably going to go back to it. I'm going to go back to video content. So, yeah.
All right. Listen, invite me over.
Absolutely, man. Come on some Sunday. I have my show every Sunday, man. You're more than welcome.
All right. Hey, everybody, have a great night. Thank you. You guys could have been anywhere, but you were here with us. Make sure you like it, subscribe, and share this on Twitter or Facebook or something like that. We got to go, and I love you all. Thank you.